Hello everyone. In today's episode, an unexpected situation happened when Jack accidentally witnessed a shady meeting between Tien and Tien, Tien's ex-husband. Trust began to crack, and lingering suspicions arose in Jack's heart. Was it just a misunderstanding? Or was Tien really hiding a shocking secret? Please follow along to discover all the tense developments in today's episode. In a small house nestled on a deserted hillside, where all year round only the sound of the wind whistling and the chirping of wild birds could be heard, Mrs. Tien's ex-mother-in-law, was sitting quietly at an old wooden table. Smoke from the stove swirled in the gloomy space, making the whole house seem to be dyed in the hazy color of the past and unformed plans. She wiped her hand across the mouth of the cold teacup, her eyes filled with impatience, her legs constantly shaking slightly under the table as if to vent her anger. She muttered, her voice hoarse like the wind whistling through her teeth. I don't know how Chen's business is going. I told him clearly, but he still hasn't reported back. What a useless guy. Unable to bear it any longer, she reached for her old phone and dialed her son's number. Her eyes sharpened, as if she was about to scold him. Hello, Mom? Chen's voice rang out on the other end of the line, a bit sleepy and reserved. Come home right now, something happened, she growled and hung up without waiting for her son to say anything more. Not long after, Tien, a man in his late 30s, with a slovenly appearance, walked in with a bored look. As soon as she saw her son, Mrs. Tien narrowed her eyes and asked, So, yesterday I told you to go and inquire about that girl Tien. Have you asked yet? Tien raised his hand to scratch his head, avoiding his mother's eyes. I haven't had time to ask anyone. Mom, yesterday I followed them but… Oh my God, Mrs. Tien slammed the table, causing the glass on the table to almost fall over. How many times have I told you? Why are you so stupid? Tien, how could you let such a good opportunity slip by? I told you, this time is a chance to earn a lot of money. Do you understand? Tien seemed guilty, but still tried to explain. I saw it too. Mom is right. This Jack is extremely rich. Yesterday I saw him and Tien going to a brand new farm. As big as a mansion. Under construction. At first glance, it must have cost at least a few billion. Mom. Hearing that, Mrs. Tien immediately lowered her voice, her eyes flashing with a calculating light. There, have I ever said anything wrong? That little girl is now clinging to a rich guy like that. So she must be able to get something out of her. I suspect that Tien's background is problematic. If we find out her true origin, who knows, we might find a gold mine. She stood up, walked closer to Tien, and pointed at his face. Listen, you have to go investigate right now. Find out who Tien's biological parents are, where she came from, where she grew up. I need to know everything. Do you understand? Tien nodded repeatedly, knowing that his mother would not be able to calm down if she got angry. Yes, I know. Let me go now. I will ask carefully. Go now, Mrs. Tien ordered, and this time I don't want to hear the words, not yet, again. Tien immediately turned his back and walked out the door, his silent shadow gradually disappearing in the middle of the red dusty path. Meanwhile, Mrs. Tien was still standing there, her eyes staring into the distance, where old memories, hatred and greed were slowly rising like a smoldering fire burning in the heart of a woman who had lost everything, and now wanted to get it back at all costs. The gentle afternoon sun fell across the vast farm, dyeing each bed of land and each row of trees that were starting to turn green. The wind blew, carrying the faint scent of fields, the scent of young grass mixed with the scent of new wood, making the atmosphere here both peaceful and full of hope. Jack and Tien sat together in the corner of the yard. From that position they could see the entire large area of land that was gradually taking shape, the garden they were planning to build. Tien pointed to the left corner of the garden, where she wanted to plant a trellis of bright purple bougainvillea, running along the white stone path. She smiled, her eyes shining with feminine joy. I want this place to have a wooden dome, covered with vines. It will be cool to sit under there in the summer. And there will be a place to read books. The entrance is paved with square stones, interspersed with soft Japanese grass. Jack nodded, taking out a notebook from his jacket pocket to take notes. He carefully sketched out the garden plan, then asked, What about the area near the small lake? I think we should leave it a bit more natural. Maybe put some big rocks and plant lotus and water lilies to create a countryside atmosphere. What a great idea, Tien exclaimed. Let's make a small lake. with white pebbles on the edge, ferns and some small bamboo bushes around. I also want to put a small curved wooden bridge across the lake. And light some lanterns at night. It must be very romantic. Jack smiled, looking at Tien's radiant face. He didn't say anything, just quietly wrote down more ideas in his notebook. Then put down his pen, holding her hand tightly. In the distance, the laughter of the group of workers building the house still echoed rhythmically, as if blending into the vivid picture of the future that the two of them were drawing together. Next to the lake, we can build a small bamboo hut, Jack said, both as a place to rest and to shade us from the sun while gardening. I will install an automatic irrigation system so that the clean vegetable beds can grow well. Tien nodded repeatedly, then turned to look at the empty land on the right. She spoke softly, her voice as light as the wind. In that corner, I want to plant fruit trees, a few guava, mango, jackfruit trees. As for the fence around the garden, we will plant 10 o'clock flowers, which bloom every morning like a strip of brilliant color. Jack looked at her, his eyes gentle. You just come up with the idea. I will take care of the rest. This will be the garden for you, for us. Both of them were silent again, looking at the large piece of land that was gradually changing. The pale sunlight at the end of the day shone on their shoulders, blending into the hopeful future colors, where there were not only trees, leaves, flowers and fruits, but also love that was silently growing with each hoe stroke, each dream drawn by honest hands. Tien left his mother's old house, his heart heavy with chaotic thoughts. His mother's words still echoed in his head. You must find Tien's biological parents. If you can do it, this time we will change our lives. The man who was used to living a loose life never thought that one day he would have to dig into the past of a woman he once looked down on. But this time, when he saw Tien getting out of the pickup truck with Jack, the rich CEO, Tien truly realized, the woman who used to be his wife now lived a different life, completely separate from the world he and his mother were wandering in. The car stopped at the entrance of the old village where Tien grew up. Tien turned off the engine, parked the car under a tree, and carefully observed the surroundings. He knew that if he revealed that he was investigating, everyone would be on guard. He slowly walked into the tea shop at the village entrance, where Mrs. Hai, an old woman with white hair, often sat selling tea and bread, still clearly remembered every child growing up in the area. Hello Mrs. Hai, how are you? Tien smiled politely, pulled out a chair and sat down. Oh, is it Tien? It's been a long time since you've been back. Who are you looking for? Tien poured a cup of tea, and said vaguely, no, I'm not looking for anyone in particular. It's just, I heard that little girl Tien used to live here. Do you remember her? Mrs. Hai squinted at Tien, then nodded. Of course I remember. That little girl was very pitiful. When she was little, she was abandoned at the village gate, then adopted by the old woman. Hearing that, Tien's eyes lit up. He continued asking, so, do you know who came to leave that little girl at the village entrance? Does anyone remember her face or identity? Mrs. Hai sighed, shaking her head. It's difficult, my child. Back then, when things were still chaotic, people abandoned their children at the temple as often as they ate. Who would dare to claim that they were relatives? They would just secretly leave their children in front of someone's house and disappear into the night. I remember when she dug it up. It still had a slight fever, wrapped in an old towel embroidered with the letters TT. T. Tien frowned. Is that an abbreviation? Ma'am? Yeah, no one knows for sure. They just saw it that way. Later, the villagers named it Tien, maybe because of those two letters. Tien sat silently. What Mrs. Hai told him wasn't much, but it was enough for him to understand. Tien's background was unclear, and if it could be found out, it would most likely be a shocking story. He stood up, thanked her, and hurriedly left, his heart filled with calculations. On the way back, Tien muttered, abandoned since childhood, so if I find a real relative now, will I be able to take advantage of her? As for the handkerchief with the letters T, maybe it's a clue to finding out the origin. I must find the truth. The afternoon light fell on the hillside. Tien's shadow stretched out on the red dirt road. He didn't know what was waiting for him ahead. But one thing was certain, Tien's past was unfolding. And if he was clever, he and Mrs. Tui could use it to change their fate. On the small red dusty road leading to the district market, Tien slowly drove his motorbike, his eyes darting around as if he was looking for someone. The midday sun was harsh. Sweat was dripping down his back. but he still tried to slow down every time he passed a crowd, hoping to hear something related to Tien's background. When approaching an old grocery store on the side of the road, Tien pulled over to buy a bottle of mineral water, taking out money while looking around. Unexpectedly, he stopped. Not far away, Tien was standing in front of the stall, holding a small packet of salt. Her simple shirt, her hair tied neatly at the nape of her neck, her gentle face under the sunlight, made Tien's heartbeat slower. Even though they had broken up a long time ago, the moment they met still made him a little confused. Huh, Tien? What a coincidence. Tien spoke first, awkwardly stepping closer. Tien turned back, somewhat surprised but still politely nodded. Brother Tien also came here to buy things? Yes, I was thirsty on the way, so I stopped by to buy a bottle of water. How are you? I heard that you are doing well these days? Tien smiled lightly, politely replied, I am fine, thank you for asking. The atmosphere suddenly became gloomy. The two stood in the sunlight shining through the torn corrugated iron roof, chatting casually as if trying to fill the void of the old years. Even though it was just a few questions about their health, it still made outsiders wonder about their relationship. At that moment, the sound of a car engine sounded outside. Jack had just driven past when he suddenly saw Tien standing and talking to a man. He slammed on the brakes, frowning, and immediately recognized that the other person was Tien, her ex-husband. Without hesitation, Jack opened the car door and strode straight into the store. What are you doing here? Tien? Tien paused for a moment, then quickly explained, I just went out to buy a pack of salt, and coincidentally met Tien here, so we talked for a few words. Without saying anything more, Jack gently but firmly pulled Tien towards him, placing his hand on her shoulder as a clear protective reflex. He looked at Tien, his eyes alert. The atmosphere suddenly became as tense as a bowstring. Tien just smiled faintly, stepped back, and then walked out of the store. Before leaving, he glanced at Tien.